Best of r/ Tales from Tech Support episode 145. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. A secretary's features were activating unwanted features on the equipment. Think this one is from the year 2K, back when most of the copiers we serviced were still analog and had actual buttons for all the different features. We got a call from a church saying that the copier was malfunctioning when they tried to use it. It would duplex copies or zoom when none of that was selected. Other random stuff as well. When dispatched to a call, our standard troubleshooting procedure was to ask the person who had the issue exactly what happened when they used the machine and then try to get the same error/issue and go from there. When I arrived at the church, only the pastor was there and he told me the secretary was the one having issues. He explained basically the same thing from the call. Random things were happening when the secretary used the copier. He had not had any issues. I give the copier a once over. Check to make sure all the features were working properly. Check the main wear and tear sections, feed rollers, PM counts, etc. Gave it a quick clean up and couldn't find anything wrong with it. Showed the pastor it was working the way it was supposed to and closed the call. Next day we get a call back for the exact same thing. Again I headed out to the church to be greeted by only the pastor. Repeat of yesterday. All features worked correctly. Showed the pastor again, no issues, and closed the call. I asked the pastor it happened again to please make sure the secretary would be there since she was the only one having issues and gave him my cell number. Yes, I know, worst tech move ever. Never give a customer your cell number. On the way back to the office my cell rang and it was the secretary. She was rather upset. I'm being polite with that description. The machine was still having issues. I told her I'm only about 40 minutes away and asked if she would please stay until I got there so she could show me exactly what was happening. She said yes and I pulled a U-turn while calling the boss to give an update. When I arrived at the church I finally got to meet the secretary and have her tell me exactly what was happening. It was the same issue the pastor described. Slight eye twitch. The following conversation is what I can remember. It's not verbatim but it's the general conversation in total. Yes. Secretary. Okay, what exactly do you want the copier to do? I want to make copies of this and have it do this. Okay, let me try and make the copies for you. I set it up to do what she wants and lo and behold, it does exactly that. What the? It always messes up when I do it. What did you do? Urge to beat head off wall rising. I just loaded the document, pushed X, Y, and Z. Told it how many to make, and press start. That's what I do, but it keeps messing up. Sigh. Okay, why don't you show me exactly what you do when you make a copy? She got up from her desk, came over, programmed the copier, put her document in the feeder and hit start. Lo and behold it did random things. At this point I finally knew what was happening. Now the secretary was about 5 feet 5 and had rather large, shall we say, features. When she stepped forward to put the document in the feeder, said features were pressing the copier's buttons that controlled its features, thus causing the randomness. Internal monologue. Oh boy. How do I address this? Think. Okay. I think I know what's going on. First, when you go to make copies, put the document in first, then step back and press reset, then set up what you want the copier to do and press start from here, standing about 6 away from the control panel. You mean I'm standing too close? How is that causing the issue? Internal scream shit. Tell you what, show me exactly what you do again when you make copies. Fine. She was definitely getting pissed off. She set up the copier and put the document in the feeder. Stop. What? Look down. She looks down and it took about 20-30 seconds of her looking down till it sunk in. Oh my god. Face beat red. How are you going to write this up? Please don't say, well, that. Side hurting from holding laughter. Tell you what, I'll just say it was a training error and that I showed you how to set the features correctly. That sound okay? Lord yes. I wrote up my paperwork, got in the car, drove about a block, parked and started crying laughing. She was so embarrassed and apologetic while I wrote up the paperwork. Never told any of the other techs in case they ever went there. Didn't want to embarrass the poor woman any more than what she got that day. I can still see her bright red face every time I think of this story. Thank you. Next. Monday morning wake up. So I started as a Linux sysadmin in a research lab in April, during lockdown. I haven't met most of my colleagues in person, only via IM. Rather naively, when I was looking up background, I saw the organization was only 2 years old. Whilst this was technically right, the lab itself has history going back 40 plus years. It's the overarching management organization that's only 2 years old. So with that in mind, you have two types of historic computing establishments, the ones where there is no documentation, management or clue, and everything is done by the seat of your pants, versus the much rarer ones where someone has gone to great lengths to lay down solid foundations with all the right tools, right processes and have everything managed, automated and controlled. Turns out there's a middle ground. Combine all the right tools and procedures with seat of your pants day-to-day working and you have this place. There is config management. There is automated deployment. There is extensive asset tracking. There are automated network scans. There is a wiki. And none of it can be trusted because it's not being maintained. Most of the config profiles are broken or production machines are sandboxed, taking them out of central updates. Automated deployment takes longer than spinning up a machine by hand. Asset tracking is varying degrees of inaccurate. The wiki contains several pages written by me as I learned how to actually do things from conversations with colleagues. I could go on and on with gripes about misuse of tooling, but the title refers to one specific incident that happened today. Last week, I was spinning up a new VM for the task I was given. It took literally an entire day. As part of this, I had to assign it a MAC address. There's a script on one of the management systems to generate valid MAC addresses for the VMware cluster. Yay. Run it, and it immediately mentions hyperv. Turns out, there's a hyperv cluster too, and this script is a copy-paste job. It also prints out MAC addresses which are dash separated rather than colon separated, which VMware's web UI doesn't like. Okay, annoying, but I can probably do something to help out here, can't I? I opened up the script from /usr/local/bin. It's Python. Great, I'm good with Python. Sure enough, it's using a library to represent MAC addresses, and there's a config option to switch the output format. Easy peasy. Oh wait, it's a managed machine, production at that, so let's do this the right way. I poked a colleague. $me. So these scripts in /usr/local/bin on $management system. Where are they deployed from? Explains formatting issue. $colleague. I'll just check. These scripts should be put there by $config management. Time passes. $colleague. The scripts don't appear to come from $cm and weren't put there by an RPM. This is not good. Can you check with $admin? That doesn't bode well. $me. So on $management system there's a collection of scripts in /usr/local/bin. However, when $colleague checked yesterday, they don't seem to be managed anywhere. Any ideas? $admin. Good question. I suspect they were hard and fast migrated, i.e. using resync, from the previous server. I check the dates. The files were created about 8 months ago, all at the same time. I leave it for the weekend and then we resume the conversation this morning. $me. Right. What should we do about them? $admin. I guess they should really be merged into $git repo and packaged from there. $me. Okay, I can do that. So I SCP the files across from the live server into a working folder. Sure enough, there's several matches and all are modified, along with another dozen scripts that have been added since. The repo shows a last commit date of several years ago. A lot of these scripts are doing things I don't really understand due to my newbie status. I try to discuss some of the changes with $admin prior to committing, but $admin has their own work to do. So, perhaps rather neglectfully, I do exactly as suggested, and do the standard JIT thing. Fork it and open a PR. $admin. Well shit, some of those have hard-coded passwords. There goes my day. $me. Checks one of the value retrieval scripts, and happened to log into $SQLDB as root. $admin. Fuck. And now they are on the internet. Whoops. So that prodded several teams into action, changing passwords and figuring out what the hell these scripts are doing. Of course, we're now expecting further scripts to break due to changed passwords, but on the bright side, it'll highlight those using root when they really shouldn't be. Nothing like publishing your organization's admin passwords for the whole world to see to light a fire under people into setting things up the right way. Huh. Side note, I deleted everything I created while the others did damage control. I probably should have gone through and sanitized them first, but I can't help marvel at how effective it was to get people to take things like drifting config seriously. Thank you. Next. Password restrictions are there for a reason. This was from last week. I'm new at my current job and a lot of the work is password resets. Back in March, restrictions were increased on the AD, Active Directory, passwords because they were paltry before, as you'll see later in this story. This story is about one of many a user that has avoided changing their password for months. Me. Help desk, this is Absinthe speaking. User. My password reset and I can't change it for some reason. Me. How long is the password you're attempting to use? User. 8 digits. Me. I'm sorry but the password policy recently changed to 15 characters. User. 15 characters. How are we supposed to remember something like that? Q 5 minutes of walking the user through long password creation. We are now on the 7th try by the user to change their password. Me. You wouldn't happen to be using any words in your password, are you? The system recognizes almost any common word and they can't be used. User. There's no way the system recognizes the word I'm using. I spell out all of the requirements for the password such as no incrementing numbers, words, the need of a number or special character, etc. 2 more failed attempts later. Me. Please refrain from using any words. User. The system isn't going to recognize Yahweh. Me. That's the 3rd most recognizable name for God. The system will catch that. User. New. My old password was Jesus123 and that worked. Me. This is why we changed the password policy, because we're dealing with fine those passwords worked before, but won't now. I know it's difficult, but it's better for our users and our client safety. Q 10 more minutes of the user attempting to change her password and swearing. Me. Are you still trying to use 123 in your password? User. You mean I can't do that either? How am I supposed to memorize this? I'm gonna have to write this down now. Me. Dear Yahweh, why? Please no. That's worse than Jesus 123. If that's what it takes, just know that that's a security risk and you've admitted to it on a recorded call. User. Click. Some people just don't like security when it comes to other people's medical information. Edit. The comments turned into mostly about how the password policy is flawed. I will be bringing it up to my management. But then we're going through the red tape of changing the passwords again. And then the process of changing 2,000 passwords to the new policy because security likes expiring everyone at once. The couple hundred that were missed were field reps who weren't connected at the time and AD failed to reset their credentials. The main point of this story was the dog fighting of, do this for your password policy. It's not working. Made the same point. What that doesn't work. I will try to fix the password policy issues but the change won't come for at least a year or 2. And that's after I fix the end user facing instruction issues, of which there are numerous. Thank you. Next. Out of scope, out of mind. In 1995 I took my first job with an IT consulting company. I'd had non-IT jobs and done IT consulting on my own before that. Having someone else negotiate with the customer was a big change. This is the story of one of my first times being sent on site to perform a specific task. The customer had a new wall mount 19 rack installed in their file room with a patch panel and twisted pair onto all of their workstation locations. I was sent there to install a new Ethernet hub in the rack and connect it to their existing 10 base 2 Ethernet. In order to install a new device on a Ethernet, you have to take down the entire network while you disconnect the coax and install a new T connector. With planning, the outage can often be limited to a few seconds. But in progress transfers will often fail, so best practice is to arrange a downtime window. Directly under their new rack was a DOS computer, monitor, printer, and keyboard. That is where I would be extending the Ethernet from to connect the new hub. Shortly after I got there, I had to get out of the way briefly so the office manager could start a batch file on that computer. She hung around to watch it while I got back to work. I talked to her while I worked, and she explained why they were upgrading their network. They had a NetWare server on the other side of the file room that held their database. The PC under the rack was the only one that could print. Every time they needed to print a report, all their users had to log out of the database. Printing a report took about a half hour. It used to be much faster, but had gotten progressively slower over the years. They were paying their software vendor an ungodly sum to replace the NetWare server with a Sun pizza box that could print reports in just a couple minutes. My downtime window would start when the printer finished. Once I had the network back up, she would start another report. I glanced at the monitor occasionally as I worked and noticed that all it showed was files being copied. I finished before it had started printing, so she took me to the next room over to show off their new pizza box. When we got back, the computer was still copying files, and continued to do so while we stared at it, until the printer finally started. Only a couple pages came out. I then extended the Ethernet, connected the hub, and confirmed the network was working. Having completed the work I had been sent there for, this is the point at which I probably should have left. Instead, I asked her if I could take a look at the batch file she used for printing before she started the next report. Keep in mind that at all my previous customers I was the one to decide my scope of work, in consultation with the customer. She said that was fine because she had to queue up the report on her workstation anyway. I had a hunch about the batch file, and was proved correct. I'd seen this problem before. People that were not familiar with NetWare writing batch files to run on NetWare servers. Normally when you want to copy a file from a DOS batch file, you use the copy command. This works fine for standalone computers. Data is pulled off the hard drive, into memory, then written back to the hard drive. This does not work so well with networked computers. In this case, the file will be loaded from the server's hard drive into the server's memory, sent over the 10 Mbps half duplex network to the workstation, which will send it back to the server, to write back to the server's hard drive in a new location. When copying files on a NetWare server, you should always use the copy command. This command tells the server to copy the file. The server loads the file from its hard drive into memory, and then writes it directly back to its hard drive, without sending it over the network. It looked like the batch file made a backup of the database before it printed the report. It took me less than a minute to add an N before all the copy commands. I waited for her to get back, then she ran the batch file. It took a couple minutes to print the report. She at first thought I broke it, but I watched it run and then copies looked like they worked fine, and she reviewed the report and confirmed it looked correct. I left and didn't even think to mention the extra 10 minutes I spent there to my boss. Never heard a word about it or went there again. TL. Doctor, customer spent an ungodly sum to replace their old server to print a lot faster. I spent a couple minutes making a software change that accomplished the same thing on their old server, for free, shortly before it was decommissioned. Thank you. Next. User thinks that the computer should know who is using it without logging in. I work for a place where my primary assignment is not IT. However, because of my background in IT and the lack of IT actually showing up most times, I am usually called upon for these services. Well, this happened a few days ago. I arrived for work to see an employee who usually works at another building across town. I rarely see him, so I was surprised that he was there. He is known for his lack of knowledge when it comes to techie anything. So, he is sitting in the back room, where we have a system set up for anyone in the company to use if they decide to work back there for whatever reason. So, he is sitting there, tapping away at the keyboard. I notice he is on the web looking stuff up for research for an upcoming presentation he is giving. I sit down at the other end of the table, get out my laptop and start working. Well, about 5 minutes goes by. He looks at me and says, "I think we have a major problem with this computer." I ask him what the issue is. He explains, "Well, anything I am saving is not saving to my network drive. It is saving to Amanda's network drive." I look at him and ask, "Well, did you sign in as you are?" He says, "No, it was signed in already and shows Amanda's name." So, I tell him, "Yes, Steve, You have to log out of her profile since she forgot to log out and you have to log in as you. He looks at me all confused and says, that makes no sense to me. I am the one using the computer now. It should save stuff to my network drive. I explain that since it is still signed in under Amanda's login, that is where anything saved will go to, and again tell him to log out and sign in under him. He is still confused, but logs out of the current profile, logs in under him and tries it again. Well, what do you know? It saves it to his network drive and now shows his name. I then again explain to him that in order to see his network drive when he uses the system he needs to log in as him. He states again that he does not understand why that is. He said all he knows is that it should know he is using the computer when he sits down to it. I did not explain anything further. I just grabbed my laptop and went to work somewhere else, wishing him a great day on the way out. Thank you. Next. When was the last time you restarted your machine? I was working as an IT team lead at the time, so I didn't often take calls until they were escalated to me. On this day, however, we were overloaded, so I got a taste of what Tier 1 desktop support agents have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Me. Standard opening and how can I help you? User. My calculator is not working. Now at this point, since many of our users are engineers, I assume it is some sort of advanced calculator software he needs for whatever his job is. Me. What is the name of the software you're having issues with? User. A calculator? Me. Do you mean like Windows calculator, the small one that comes on every computer? User. Yes. It won't work. It opens slowly, but won't do calculations. Great. This guy's computer is so messed up that the most simple program imaginable isn't even working. Me. Okay, I understand. When was the last time you restarted your machine? It may have some updates to perform. User. Under his breath. Winter of last year was how many months ago? Then at normal volume I'm not sure, maybe 9-10 months ago? Me. Wow, okay. If you don't mind, go ahead and restart your computer for me. User. Sure. A few minutes later. Me. How are we looking? User. My screen still says Windows Update, 1%. Me. In that case, I'm going to give you your ticket number and you can call us back if the problem persists after your machine comes back online. Also, for the future I'd recommend restarting your computer more often. I checked back on that ticket every once in a while, and we never heard from him again. Problem solved. TLDR. Please people do not wait 9 months to restart your computers. Thank you. Next. I just see a blue screen and none of the patient rooms are showing up. I work IT for a hospital, and our department also provides support for a food service company that does meals for our patients. They have a piece of software that shows patients' rooms, names, dietary restrictions, etc. I got a call about 6:45 Sunday morning, yesterday, from one of the employees there who, bless her heart, isn't the best with computers. I answered the phone and the conversation went about like this. Me. This is Amanda Law. User. Hi. Says wrong name. This is Jane Doe with food service company. We're having a problem with our computer in the kitchen. Manager. Told us to call you guys. Me. Okay. What's going on with the computer? User. Well, it's just at a blue screen and we can't see any of the patient rooms. Me. Okay. Can you reboot the computer for me? User. I've already done that. Me. Let's do it again. User. 5 seconds later. Okay, it's done. Me. To myself, of course she would restart the monitor to the user now. You did that by clicking the start button and clicking restart? User. Yes. Me. Okay, what's it doing now? User. It's still just the blue screen and it doesn't show any of the patient rooms. Me. Close the program for me. User. Okay. Me. Now reopen it and tell me what it does. User. It's the same thing. Me. Okay. I'm going to come in and see what it looks like. It's going to take me about half an hour to get there. User. Okay. Thank you. So I get up, get dressed, and drive to the hospital. I make my way to the kitchen and walk over to the computer that they're having trouble with. The blue screen she was talking about. Press Ctrl plus Alt plus Del to log in. I stared at it for a few seconds, then logged their user in. The user walked over at this point, saw the desktop load, and asked, "User, what did you do?" Me, I logged in. User, what do you mean? Me, I mean I logged into the computer with the password you guys used to log in. User, oh, well, I don't know anything about no password. After spending all of 1 minute in their kitchen, I said have a good day, walked out, groaned loudly in frustration, and went to my office to type several drafts of an email to their manager before settling on the following. Manager, this morning, user, called reporting an issue with the computer in the kitchen. The only thing she could tell me over the phone was that there was a blue screen and she couldn't see any rooms. I asked her to restart the computer and it sounded like she powered the monitor off and on. I asked her to close the software and she said she did. And when I asked her to reopen the software she said it was back to the blue screen and she couldn't see any rooms. I assumed this meant she was in software and that it wasn't working correctly, so I drove to the hospital to take a look. The problem ended up being that there was apparently a power outage last night and the computer had restarted and was waiting for them to log into Windows. The employees were apparently not aware that they needed to hit Ctrl plus Alt plus Del to log into the computer before using it. Please disseminate this information to all the food service company employees so this sort of issue can be avoided in the future.